Hi, I'm Randy Delorey, and I'm here with Dr. Lisa Barrett, and hoping to have an insightful conversation about COVID, top of mind for many Nova Scotians these days. Dr. Barrett, thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. I talk about nothing other than COVID these days as an infectious disease doctor, and we've worked together before through the Ministry of Health when you were there. So, yeah, nice to be here, and we'll get some conversation going about COVID.
Well, and one of the great things that you've been doing for Nova Scotians, actually all Nova Scotians, with COVID is the pop-up clinics, the pop-up testing centers that we've done. In fact, I had the opportunity to go to one of your clinics or testing centers yesterday to have a COVID test. That was great.
Yeah, very quick, easy to do. We certainly are a world leader in that. In fact, far away as Germany, Israel, people have actually reached out to us to ask how to do it, other parts of Canada as well. So we're really hopeful that folks all around Nova Scotia are going to come and get tested. It's a really, really important part of how we're going to stay ahead of the curve here in Nova Scotia.
Well, and it's great. I got tested just yesterday at the convention center, and it took about 10 minutes, and I had my results maybe 10 minutes later, and it was a negative test, so it was great.
Which is the only reason we're sitting here so close to each other without wearing masks, is that we both were tested within the last 12 hours, and we both know that, at least for the day, we're negative.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the other work you're doing, I mean, when I'm out connecting with Nova Scotians as part of the work I'm doing now, stuff that I hear most frequently are about the new variants of the virus that are coming around, and you're hearing about, and then vaccination and how vaccination works and the process for that. Can you maybe share some information about what's going on with those variants, and then maybe we can talk about the vaccines?
Sure. So lots of folks have lots of concerns about this virus, and that shouldn't go away, at least not yet. Certainly lots of good news here in Nova Scotia. We don't have a lot of variants at the moment, but that can change at any second. And the worry and concern, of course, is that these variants can be more transmittable and maybe more deadly over time. One way to prevent that from happening is to keep cases low and to be very mindful of how we travel, but also, when vaccine is available for us, for folks to feel comfortable and eager to get a vaccine, which is part of the package of how we stay safe.
Okay, excellent. And so far, with the vaccine distribution that we've been doing, obviously there's two approved vaccines in Canada, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. Both of those are relatively new style vaccines, the mRNA, and people talk about that. And, you know, people who have concerns about vaccinations often talk about, well, like, you might get the disease, the virus from the vaccine, or then they talk about, well, this changes my DNA and things like that. Are you hearing much from Nova Scotians or other people with those types of concerns about getting a vaccine and those types of issues, or other concerns?
Lots of concerns from folks, mainly because people perceive that it was pushed through very quickly. Certainly there was a lot of safety effort that went into doing this, and I have no concerns about the safety, and I have no concerns recommending that to people. As for whether it can become part of your DNA, we'd all love some things to leave our DNA and some things to get added, but unfortunately this vaccine is not going to do that. It sits just in the muscle, primes your immune system, but unfortunately it can't change who you are, or fortunately, depending on how much you like where you're sitting. So the vaccines themselves, great technology, and importantly, what I love about the mRNA vaccines is that they can be changed quickly. So the virus changes quickly, but so can the vaccines. And that's going to be very important as we go forward. And hopefully people don't get to a point where they feel there's pressure either to get the vaccine or not get the vaccine, pressure to get tested or not tested. One of the things I love about Nova Scotia and our response has been that people have been very kind to each other. And the stigma around getting tested or getting vaccine or your personal choices have all been taken as a community, and that's been really important and something we need to continue.
Yeah, I think that it is. I mean, I was Minister of Health during the first wave of the pandemic, and you know, we all of the lockdown, and you know, we've all lived it, so we all know what was going on back last spring and into the summer. And it's true, Nova Scotians really stepped up to the plate, and I think that's something that we don't talk about enough. You know, we talk about all of the important public health protocols that were brought in place place, the supports that have been provided to Nova Scotians and Canadians. But we seldom hear about how those public health directives really only work if people follow them. And so we've been successful here, even though other places have had similar public health protocols. It was actually Nova Scotians followed them. And so I think it's important for people to remember, it's getting tiresome. It's hard to stay away from family and friends, but that's what's keeping us all safe and has allowed us to be the envy of not just the country, but many places in the world.
Well, I don't think that's by chance. I think Nova Scotians are great, and they really combine the individual responsibility with the population concern for each other. But if you don't have the right policies to be able to give people confidence, then people won't follow it. And we've seen that in other places. And I think in the first wave, as a government, keeping science first, always consistent policy making that was really very based in science, and people felt confidence in that. And that would be a great way to continue going forward as well.
Well, it's really I've worked in many different roles, from environment, finance, and health, and making evidence-informed decisions seems to work in really any area. And I know that medicine does have a strong background and track record in evidence-based decisions, and I think it's great to see that Nova Scotia and much of Atlantic Canada, that's exactly how we've managed this pandemic. And again, the results speak for themselves.
And it's not just following the evidence, it's making it. Mm-hmm. And so if people are too afraid to innovate or to move forward, then you have a problem. Mm-hmm. And that's been a big part of this testing group. It's taking people from the community and other Nova Scotians who've actually volunteered to get out, to learn to do these tests. Your test last night was done by someone from the community.
Yeah, and actually a student who is here doing distance learning. Yeah. So studying at a school in Ontario, but doing it from right here in Nova Scotia, and came out and volunteered. And absolutely incredible. It was, like I said, it was painless. Actually, I found it tickled a little bit. I almost laughed with it.
We're going to get you on tape a lot.
Yeah. No, it really did though. It was like a tickle in the back of your throat. So, it's, I guess uncomfortable is the way most people describe it. It's a little bit going in, but then you don't even notice it until they take it out. So it's, I would say, it really was nothing to it.
Teeny tiny bit of discomfort for that real feeling of, at least for that day, peace of mind. If you're going to go visit somebody at a long-term care facility, you're heading out with friends for the night, for a meal. At the point we're at right now, testing is such an important tool to keep us low. So yeah, the innovation part of that took some confidence from public health and policymakers. Nowhere else had done this with non-medical professionals. So not just following the evidence, but making it is such a big deal in what we've done so far in Nova Scotia.
Well, I think that's, it's not just the evidence of going out and having the volunteers, non-medical volunteers, be trained up to do this, but you're also collecting data, voluntary survey on the way out. So none of the health data is really tracked as far as the test is concerned. But there is, you can use a QR code and load your phone. So I left the testing center and went to grab some dinner. And I had done my survey on the way down to dinner. By the time I got to the restaurant, survey was complete. So now we're collecting that data, and that can help inform other innovations and how we can do more. And not just for Nova Scotia, but we're innovators. And as you said earlier, other jurisdictions are coming to us to learn and help their countries or provinces. So it's, again, we have a lot to be proud of in our COVID response here in Nova Scotia.
And I think that ability to listen to where there are gaps, we did great in the first wave. We still have things that we can do better or more in terms of our populations of people who have challenges, who don't have consistent housing, who really struggle financially to be able to stay at home when they need to, if this ever happens again. And so we have lots we can tweak and learn and do differently next time, and learn from other jurisdictions as well.
And that's one of the things I remember from the first wave, how it's not just a health or a public health response. The whole health system came together, the acute care system, continuing care, community care, paramedicine and physicians and healthcare providers in community settings. But also when you get into housing, we had housing and community services and other departments within government that actually came to bear to help support us as we went through some of the outbreaks that were taking place in in that first wave. And so again, it goes to your point that this isn't just about health; it's all of society, and we have to really continue our response as a province to keep us healthy and safe, and support each other through this.
Yeah, a great opportunity really for people and Nova Scotians to continue to think about each other in different ways. So many folks that I ran into would just, well, everyone just needs to stay home. And you say, well, what if they don't have a home? That didn't cross a lot of minds. So I think we've all learned a lot about each other and the way we can help to support each other. And as we move forward, make better and more robust decisions that will help those folks be ready if anything like this ever comes up again, including public health decisions. And across the country, I think we've realized that we need to really resource public health in good and bad times.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing about public health, during my tenure, we talk about not just in public health, but broadly the notion of preventative measures that we can put in place, which public health is a big part of that, is preventing outbreaks, preventing infections, and so forth. But often we do continue to see a disproportionate focus on acute, immediate issues and immediate outcomes, which that's not what preventative medicine, preventative and public health really, they play the long game. They play the preventative game. So it's that difficult conversation with people to say these investments or these policies are to prevent something from happening. Well, how do you measure what didn't happen? And I think people are starting to pay attention and see that here, because, sometimes there are people raising concerns about the restrictions we had in Nova Scotia being more stringent than other parts of the country. But now they look, and although we can't measure what didn't happen in Nova Scotia explicitly, we can look to other regions and see what happened there when they didn't take the same steps. And we can see that when again, the evidence shows that these steps can have a positive impact, we can follow that evidence and have confidence that we're making a positive difference, and that positive difference is what hasn't happened, the negative things that haven't happened, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I always tell people, if we get to the end of this and everyone looks at me and says I was overreacting or our group was overreacting, then I've done a great job. Yeah. So I think that's the key part of what people were holding on to here.
Well, and you actually touch a really interesting point there, is how difficult it is to know that sweet spot of too much, too far, too quick, and what actually needs to be accomplished. And I do really believe that in Nova Scotia, we've really hit that sweet spot. We see it in our results. So first and foremost, we know we're achieving it. And I think we do have, businesses are operating. Obviously there's impacts on certain types of businesses, certain sectors are impacted more significantly because of the nature of their operations. But it's working, and businesses are open, and people are still able to travel through the community and the province to earn their income and their livelihoods, and still keep each other safe. So I think we're finding that sweet spot.
Yep. We saw things. Long-term care didn't go well the first time. And now there's lots of research being done and lots of modification, still lots of gaps, but an incredible population of people within long-term care providing care who want to respond, and continuing to support them to do that better is great. We were one of the only jurisdictions in Canada that didn't have any COVID cases in correctional facilities. And we did that by depopulating correctional facilities. That was also pretty brave. We did that almost before anyone else in Canada, and it worked very well to protect another vulnerable group in our society. And not a lot of groups did that, and we needed the support of policymakers in order to protect those groups. And as we go forward, we're nowhere near the end of this, so we're halfway through maybe. So lots more to do.
That's right. And that is actually an important point for Nova Scotians. I mean, there's a lot of attention and excitement about the vaccines. But as has been reported, these vaccines take a while to be produced and manufactured and get distributed. And there's demand right across the world, and getting them distributed before they can be delivered to individual Nova Scotians or individual Canadians. How long that takes. And then even, I guess, from a medical perspective or public health perspective, here, the vaccines are being produced, they're being distributed. Dr. Strang has updated. We believe on the schedule of delivery, we'll have 75% of the population, or most of the population, that is eligible and looking to be vaccinated by the fall. But it's not a light switch, is it? Right? COVID's not done when everybody has the vaccine, or so. When you say we're only partway through, what happens after that? Like if everybody, we get to 75-80% of the population vaccinated by the fall, how do you see this pandemic winding down from that point?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
But I think the important part in the meantime, so what gets you through until the fall? There's two ways to use vaccines. It's as a tool to stamp out hotspots. There's risk to doing that. For example, the way that's happening in some other parts of the world, the UK, France, parts of Israel, or parts of Canada where there are lots of cases. And in that case, you're using the vaccine as a way of adding to testing and other precautions. And your risk there, it's great to do that, but your risk is that you may decrease the effectiveness of the vaccine if you generate mutations or shift away from it. The ideal way to use a vaccine is to get your population vaccinated at low levels of the virus. And so our goal right now is to keep cases low, even as we open up a little bit and we keep getting tested and move forward, because this is the most efficient way to use vaccine in our province. And so getting people through and vaccinated, as many people as we can, and hopefully most people are going to feel that that's part of their COVID effort response, their personal part of this, because this is the way we keep our vaccines effective for the long run. So coming back to the fall, our chances of having our vaccines that are currently available work really well, and probably for the whole season of the next COVID season. There will be COVID seasons, bad news. It's going to be like the flu. It's never going away. But we will have our vaccines working well because we worked hard to put it into effect, if you will, when the virus levels were low in the community. So we've got a really good shot, I think, of these vaccines working, some of the best in the country, for the vaccine and the variants that are out there.
Awesome. Any other key information? I mean, as I said at the top, I think the big things that I've been hearing from Nova Scotians have been really about the variants and the mutations of the virus, and about the vaccine itself. Is there any other key information that Nova Scotians or politicians like myself should be thinking about and aware of?
I think this whole idea of keeping public health combined with science up front has paid off. It's not fortuitous. Lots of folks in different parts of Canada want to say it's because we're small or on the edge of the ocean. It's not. And I think if we have the ability to keep that science up front, innovative, and public health focused way of doing things with a consistency. I don't know about other Nova Scotians, but I'd be pretty willing to keep toeing the line on that one.
Great. Well, Thank you very much, Dr. Barrett. And if you have other questions or want to learn more about COVID and the coronavirus and Nova Scotia's response, the Department of Health, the province has a website, novascotia.ca/coronavirus. All of the latest information is posted there. So if you want to learn about the vaccine, the virus, public health policies, you can go there to get that information. Thanks again, Dr. Barrett.
Thank you.